Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Marika Schroeder, here to bring you the latest developments from across the globe. US President Donald Trump is en route to Beijing for a highly anticipated two-day summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The meeting between the leaders of the world's two largest economies comes amid heightened global tensions, particularly the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. The two presidents are expected to focus primarily on trade and economic issues, as well as the Iran conflicts, while also addressing the dispute over Taiwan and ways to stabilize the broader US-China relationship. Before departing Washington on Tuesday, President Trump expressed optimism about the talks, telling reporters that both he and President Xi are looking forward to the meeting and that a lot of great things will happen.
Do you believe, Mr. Kurdi, sir, Mr. President, do you believe your visit to China will impact of international economy and price of oil?
It's going to be a positive. We're going to have a very good meeting. I spoke with President Xi. We both look forward to the meeting. It's going to be great.
The message, sir, to the Chinese people as you embark on this summit.
That we're going to have a great relationship for many, many decades to come. My relationship with President Xi is a fantastic one. We've always gotten along, and we're doing very well with China, and working with China has been very good. So we look forward to it. As you know, President Xi will be coming here toward the end of the year, so that'll be exciting too. I only wish we had the ballroom finished. The ballroom is right on budget and ahead of schedule.
What is the ultimate goal of your trip to China?
I think more than anything else is we have massive relationships with China. We're the two superpowers. We're the strongest nation on earth in terms of military. China's considered second. Who knows? I mean, who knows? But we are. There's nobody even to come close. And you see that whether it's Venezuela or whether it's Iran. Iran's military is decimated. I have a great relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to remain that way. We have a lot of things to discuss. I wouldn't say Iran is one of them, to be honest with you, because we have Iran very much under control. We're either going to make a deal or they're going to be decimated. So one way or the other, we win.
What about
we're going to be talking with President Xi about a lot of different things. I would say more than anything else will be trade.
Earlier today, during China's Foreign Ministry press briefing, spokesperson Gao Jiakun stated that Beijing welcomes President Trump's visit. He noted that China is ready to work with the US to expand cooperation, manage their differences, and provide greater international stability.
Heads of state diplomacy plays an irreplaceable role in providing strategic guidance for China-US relations. China welcomes President Trump's state visit to China. During the visit, the two presidents will exchange views on major issues concerning China-US relations and world peace and development. The two sides will act in the spirit of respect, equality, and mutual benefit and provide more stability and certainty to the world.
While President Trump embarked on his trip to China, Kremlin Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov confirmed to reporters that preparations are underway for Russian President Vladimir Putin's upcoming state visit to Beijing. Exact dates are yet to be disclosed, but the meeting is expected in the first half of 2026. The visit will reaffirm Sino-Russian relations, as the two countries mark the 30th anniversary of the China-Russia Strategic Partnership and 25 years since the signing of the Treaty of Good Neighborliness, Friendship and Cooperation.
Информация о предстоящем визите в Китай есть исчерпывающая. Он готовится, в завершающей стадии находится подготовка. И это то событие, которому и в Москве, и в Пекине придают первостепенное значение. Визит ожидается насыщенный с точки зрения содержания. По срокам мы синхронно с нашими китайскими товарищами проинформируем мировую общественность.
And regarding the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, with a 3-day ceasefire having come to an end, Russia says the ball is in Kiev's court. The Russian press secretary told the media on Tuesday that the special military operation can stop at any moment, as soon as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky takes the necessary decisions. Peskov further reaffirmed President Putin's comments on Victory Day that the conflict is heading to an end, noting progress in the peace process.
The president said that Russia remained open to dialogue. He noted that some progress had been made within the trilateral discussions and added that we would welcome the continuation of U.S. mediation efforts. Of course, the progress achieved in terms of the peace process suggests that a conclusion is indeed approaching. But there is no point in discussing any specific details at the moment. As you know, the ceasefire has ended, and the special military operation is continuing. It could stop at any moment as soon as the Kiev regime and Zelensky take responsibility and make the necessary decision. Kiev is well aware of what decisions need to be taken. Speaking at a press conference in the Kremlin, the president said that he would be ready to meet with Zelensky at any time in Moscow for talks, and also at any other location. However, it only makes sense to meet at any other location if the process is to be fully finalized, and in order to finalize it, a great deal of groundwork still needs to be done.
Leaders and senior officials from member states in NATO's eastern flank have arrived in the Romanian capital of Bucharest for the B9 Regional Defence Summit holding today. Notable figures present at the meeting include NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, with the opening session focusing on support for Ukraine, regional security, Black Sea deterrence, and aligning positions on NATO's future ahead of the upcoming NATO summit holding in Turkey in July.
Montenegro has 31 friends and allies by its side to ensure this country stays safe and secure. For example, Greek and Italian aircraft continue to protect your airspace. But Montenegro is also an exporter of security, deploying troops to NATO's forward land forces in Latvia and Bulgaria, helping to deter and defend against any aggression. And you contribute to KFOR, NATO's peacekeeping mission in Kosovo. Montenegro promotes peace and stability across the Western Balkans, a region of great and also of strategic importance for NATO. And we know that security cannot be taken for granted. It is something we all work for, and we do this every day. NATO supports constructive cooperation across the region. We know there are actors trying to pull the Western Balkans backwards. They want to disrupt progress and destabilize the region. NATO is committed to keep the troubles of the past firmly in the past. We will call out and counter any malign activities on NATO territory. We need strong societies defended by strong militaries, because we live in a more dangerous world.
First of all, I would like to note that the capacities of our military have been significantly strengthened in the past years, and the citizens have been able to see that. According to Eurobarometer, the latest survey of the European Commission, which was published 7 days ago, the trust in our military is at the historical maximum of 88%. And just to illustrate, to compare these figures were far below 50% for so many years. And now we have this level of trust of the practically entire nation, of all the ethnical identitarian groups. All of them stand behind the military of Montenegro and behind its mission. And that's a major deal. This is something that we have to be so proud of, because the most severe enemy is the internal enemy, the enemy from within. When we are cohesive, when we act together, when we have entire population, entire state behind us, then we are the strongest. And that's when we can contribute the most to everybody else. And that is why I'm saying that we have already contributed and we have invested a lot into our military. The investments are also at their inception, nevertheless. I think we've done a lot of good things, but there are yet many good things that have to take place in the future. With the US, we are going to have an interstate agreement already this June, and we are hoping that on this occasion we will be able to work on critical infrastructure, namely the infrastructure which is dual use, both for civilian and military use.
The two presidents co-chairing the summit, Romania's Nicos Erdan and Poland's Karol Nawrocki, held bilateral talks on Tuesday, followed by a joint press conference ahead of today's main summit. The two heads of state primarily discussed strengthening defense industry cooperation, including Romania's acquisition of Polish drones, sharing experience on maritime security in the Black Sea and Baltic regions, continued support for Moldova's European integration, and the upcoming NATO summit in Ankara. Nawrocki positioned their two nations as the twin pillars of NATO's eastern flank. Stay connected to our Love World Network channels for the latest breaking news and international headlines. And we immediately move on to further global developments. The European Union is considering an EU-wide minimum age requirement for access to social media platforms, essentially a social media ban. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made the announcement on Tuesday at the European Summit on Artificial Intelligence and Children in Copenhagen, framing the ban as a means to protect children from online harm. However, the announcement drew immediate backlash, with one individual commenting on X that in order to verify age, you need to identify every person online. They further stated that the minimum age requirement is merely an excuse for tracing and tracking everybody. It's all about control.
We could come with a legal proposal this summer. We're witnessing the lightning speed at which technology is advancing and how it penetrates every corner of childhood and adolescence. And the discussions about a minimum age for social media can no longer be ignored, as you all know here in this room. Almost all EU member states call for an assessment on the need for it. At the moment, Denmark wants to introduce one, 9 other member states too. The European Parliament has come to the same conclusion. The question is not whether young people should have access to social media. The question is whether social media should have access to young people.
As millions of citizens from across the UK are preparing for the Unite the Kingdom rally holding this Saturday, May 16th in central London, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is doing his utmost to ban international speakers from attending the event. In the last 24 hours, Polish politician and European Member of Parliament Dominik Tarczyński, Flemish MP Philip de Winter, and US conservative political commentator Don Keith have been banned from entering the UK for the rally, because to Starmer, their presence is not conducive to the public good.
Well, after visiting the United Kingdom about 8 or 9 times in the last 2 years and participating in the very peaceful and patriotic Unite the Kingdom events with my good friend Tommy Robinson, I've just received notice that I've been denied entry into the country. And I'm truly baffled by this decision, as I've never participated in any violence, nor have I incited any violence in the UK. I've never been involved in any criminal activity in my life in Britain or any other country. The only thing I've ever done is associate with Tommy Robinson and speak up for the forgotten people of Great Britain, people who have been crushed and victimized by a tyrannical leftist regime. But if I were an African migrant or a jihadi from the Middle East who had come over to rape Britain's women or leech off of the taxpayers, I would still be welcomed with open arms by this corrupt labor government. Do you know that they have convicted immigrants from hostile countries in Britain of actual rape of underage girls and let them go free to roam the streets of Britain again? But for conservative influencers and commentators from America, the supposed greatest ally of Britain, I guess those scary words are just too much for Starmer to bear. You know, I'm not sure the world understands what a tragedy it is that the country that is considered to be the modern cradle of free expression has now devolved into a country that arrests more than 12,000 people per year for nonviolent speech offenses, far more than Russia and China. In fact, more than any country in the world. But guests from allied countries are banned for their opposing viewpoints. It really is sad. So President Trump and Vice President Vance just know that when the soon-to-be ex-Prime Minister Keir Starmer sat in the Oval Office and told you both Britain has free speech, that he lied to your faces. And I hope you never sit in the same room with him again.
We'll be back shortly with more on the latest international breaking news. Stay tuned.
There are moments in life that are too big to miss. Moments that change everything. With the journey taking us far and wide, we end up miles apart from the ones we love. Yet, even in those times, we find ways to be together. Because when a moment is truly important, distance becomes nothing but a number. Use King's Conference and let your influence span the globe. With 1,000 participants in a single room, there's no telling how far your message can go.
UK Defence Secretary John Healey co-chaired the inaugural ministerial meeting of a new 40-nation coalition alongside France, aimed at protecting freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. In support of the effort, Britain is deploying the advanced Type 45 air defence destroyer HMS Dragon, RAF Typhoon jets, and autonomous mine-hunting systems, backed by £115 million in fresh funding. This multinational initiative directly aligns with President Trump's pointed observation that NATO allies, including the UK, would only commit meaningfully to Middle East security once the heavy fighting subsides.
The UK will provide our destroyer, HMS Dragon, who is sailing to the region now. Will provide RAF Typhoons, ready to be retasked to fly defensive air patrols over the strait. Over £100 million to accelerate our new hybrid navy, including new drone boats and mine-hunting systems, and advanced Royal Navy mine clearance specialists who are preparing for mine clearance operations. So the UK is stepping up to secure the strait. We all have a national interest and a national responsibility to do the same. And the purpose of this defence ministers' meeting is to strengthen the political endorsement of this multinational mission and to encourage more nations to approve more military commitments to that mission.
However, the UK and France's initiative is a case of too little, too late. President Trump, in a gaggle with the press at the White House yesterday, stated that the US doesn't require any assistance with the Iran conflict, not from NATO nor from China. He further expressed his dissatisfaction with the poor response of NATO members in assisting earlier US military actions during Operation Epic Fury.
NATO.
Say it.
What is more broken, NATO or OPEC?
Well, OPEC is having some difficulty right now because one of those things, but that has nothing to do with me. NATO was very disappointing to me NATO was not there when we wanted them. We don't need NATO. We don't need NATO. But if we did need them, they just weren't there.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is hosting the BlackRock Infrastructure Investment Conference in Cape Town today. In his keynote address, Ramaphosa welcomed BlackRock's $500 million commitment to the African Infrastructure Fund. The conference focuses on energy, ports, rail, digital and water infrastructure, building on earlier investment pledges of nearly 890 billion rand. However, the event, framed by the presidency as an opportunity to attract major investment into South Africa's infrastructure, has received a mixed reaction, with critics accusing Ramaphosa of selling out the country to the highest bidder.
So we have two organizations here that have been on the forefront of investment in infrastructure that the world is deploying for a number of years and are probably the two largest investors today in infrastructure. And one of the things I wanted to touch base on is that many of the financial problems that we've seen over the years have been related to a couple areas. One, mismatch of liabilities and assets in terms of the dramatic changes in interest rates and what occurred. We lost two great franchises, Silicon Valley Bank and Republic Bank, because they chose to make intermediate investments, 7-year debt in U.S. governments or high-grade mortgages, and borrowed overnight. And what looked like a positive spread at 3% or 2 3/4, when they were paying 5.5% overnight for money. Both of them are not independent companies today, but both Bruce and Larry have seen this occur time and time again over the last 30 years. And so I just wanted to start by giving you a feeling of the strength of these organizations. And when we talk about the risk of redemptions relative to the size of their organizations, Bruce, let's start with you. What percent of your assets that you manage are redeemable on a quarterly basis?
Probably less than 1%.
Okay, so everything you've read about this year, about private credit and redemptions, less than 1% of assets. And Larry, what do you think?
It's certainly less than 1%.
Yeah, a fraction. And so we've defined an issue. Why did this occur? You could ask yourself, both of these organizations were built to identify long-term investors who could make long-term investments with themselves serving as the mediator. We're well aware that the banking system, that their capital structure is probably 2 years at best. And so the challenges they have met the needs to help build the world, the U.S., our economy, by matching and being the intermediary between people that have long-term assets and people who need long-term investors from that standpoint.
Let's take a recap of today's headlines. President Trump to touch down in Beijing for state visit with Xi.
Mr. President, do you believe your visit to China will impact of international economy and price of oil?
It's going to be a positive. We're going to have a very good meeting. I spoke with President Xi. We both look forward to the meeting. It's going to be great.
European Union considers EU-wide minimum age requirement for social media access.
The discussions about a minimum age for social media can no longer be ignored, as you all know here in this room. Almost all EU member states call for an assessment on the need for it.
Prime Minister Starmer bans European MPs and political commentators from Unite the Kingdom rally.
Well, after visiting the United Kingdom about 8 or 9 times in the last 2 years and participating in the very peaceful and patriotic Unite the Kingdom events with my good friend Tommy Robinson, I've just received notice that I've been denied entry into the country.
UK and France finally willing to contribute to Strait of Hormuz security.
So the UK is stepping up to secure the strait. We all have a national interest and a national responsibility to do the same.
And that brings us to the end of this afternoon's midday news updates. My name is Marika Schreder. Thank you for tuning in. Join us again tomorrow here on Alan 24 International to stay informed on the latest global developments as we bring you news that is truth, the pulse of trusted analysis. Goodbye.